Ever heard of a man who built a fortune from a graveyard? No, I'm not talking about some ghost story. This is the tale of Tobias, a simple gravekeeper in northern medieval England, and how he turned a broken leg and a hungry dog into an empire of lies. So, grab your popcorn, because this story is a wild ride. Our story begins in a place most people try to avoid, a cold, desolate graveyard. The wind howls through the skeletal trees, and the fog hangs low over the weathered tombstones. This was the world of Tobias. His life was as gray and monotonous as the stones he tended to. Every day was the same: dig a grave, fill a grave, and try to ignore the gnawing hunger in his belly. His only companion was a scruffy, half-starved dog who was just as miserable as he was. Life for Tobias was a dead end, or so he thought. One particularly damp morning, while navigating the treacherous, muddy paths of the graveyard, disaster struck. His foot slipped on a patch of wet moss, and he went down hard. A sharp, sickening crack echoed through the silent cemetery. Tobias knew instantly. His leg was broken. Pain, white-hot and blinding, shot through him. He was alone, helpless, and miles from the nearest village. As he lay there, shivering in the mud, a sense of absolute despair washed over him. Was this it? Was he going to die here, among the dead, forgotten by the world? Just as he was about to give up, his scruffy dog, drawn by his cries of pain, began licking his face. But then, the dog did something strange. It started lapping at the morning dew that had collected in the hollow of a large, ancient tombstone. It drank, and then came back to lick Tobias's face again. An idea, a spark in the darkness, ignited in Tobias's mind. He watched the dog, then looked at the dew glistening on the cold stone. It was just water, right? But in his desperate, pain-addled state, it seemed like more. It seemed like an omen. Using a piece of his torn tunic, Tobias painstakingly collected the dew from the tombstones. It was a slow, agonizing process with his broken leg, but he was driven by this newfound, bizarre inspiration. He had nothing to lose. Back in his ramshackle hut, he remembered a small pouch of myrrh he pilfered from a recent burial. Myrrh was valuable, used in perfumes and incense, and associated with sacred rituals. On a whim, he crushed the fragrant resin and mixed it into his collection of graveyard dew. He stirred the concoction, creating a strange, milky bomb. He had no idea what he was doing, but a plan, a devious, brilliant plan, was beginning to form. With his leg crudely splinted, Tobias hobbled into town. He held up his jar of murky liquid and, with the conviction of a true showman, began his pitch. This, he declared, was no ordinary bomb. This was the sacred Graveyard Elixir, an ancient family recipe passed down through generations of mystical healers. He claimed it could cure anything from a common cold to the most persistent cough. He told tales of how it banished nightmares, brought restful sleep, and even smoothed away the wrinkles of age. His performance was masterful. His eyes gleamed with feigned sincerity, and his voice, usually quiet and timid, boomed with authority. The desperate and the gullible, always plentiful in times of hardship, were captivated. The first to buy was a woman whose child had been suffering from a relentless fever. Desperate for a cure, she paid Tobias her last few coins. The next day, she returned, her eyes wide with wonder. Her child's fever had broken. Was it the elixir, or just a coincidence? It didn't matter. Word spread like wildfire. The sacred Graveyard Elixir was a miracle. Soon, a line formed outside Tobias's humble hut. People came from miles around, clamoring for a bottle of his magical bomb. The sick, the old, the vain, they all wanted a piece of the miracle. Tobias, the lowly gravekeeper, was suddenly the most sought-after man in the region. Money poured in faster than he could count it. He replaced his rags with fine silks. His hut with a grand house overlooking the very graveyard that had been his prison. He ate the finest foods and drank the most expensive wines. The scruffy dog was now a well-fed companion, decked out in a jeweled collar. Tobias became a man of mystery and immense wealth. He was no longer just the gravekeeper. He was Master Tobias, the purveyor of miracles. People whispered about his secret formula, speculating about its divine origins. But no one questioned it too closely. As long as the elixir seemed to work, they were happy to believe. But as the saying goes, all good things must come to an end. Tobias's meteoric rise had not gone unnoticed. In a nearby monastery lived a wise old monk, a man of science and logic long before his time. He was skeptical of so-called miracles and had been hearing the fantastical tales of Tobias's elixir. He couldn't believe that graveyard dew and myrrh could cure all ailments. Driven by a thirst for truth, he decided to investigate. He acquired a bottle of the elixir and in his simple laboratory began to analyze its contents. He separated the dew, examined the resin, and found exactly what he expected: water and a bit of fragrant gum. There was nothing miraculous about it. It was a fraud. Armed with the truth, the monk went straight to the town guard. He explained his findings. exposing Tobias's entire operation as a sham built on superstition and lies. The soldiers, initially reluctant to challenge the town's beloved miracle worker, were convinced by the monk's calm, logical evidence. A raid was planned. Under the cloak of darkness, soldiers stormed Tobias's lavish home. They found him surrounded by luxury with massive vats of graveyard dew and sacks of stolen myrrh. The evidence was undeniable. The town's savior was nothing more than a common swindler. The news hit the town like a tidal wave. The people who had once revered Tobias now felt betrayed and foolish. Their adoration turned to fury. They gathered in the town square, demanding justice. They wanted their money back, but more than that, they wanted revenge for being deceived. Tobias was dragged before the magistrate, his fine clothes torn, his face pale with fear. The trial was swift. The evidence was overwhelming, and Tobias, seeing no way out, confessed to everything. The crowd roared for his head, but the magistrate, perhaps with a sense of poetic justice, had a different punishment in mind. Tobias was sentenced to a lifetime of service, right back where he started. He was to guard the graves until his dying day, stripped of his wealth and his freedom, a prisoner in the very place that had made him rich. So, Tobias returned to his old life, a gravekeeper once more. He was a cautionary tale, a legend whispered among the townsfolk. But as he stood there, watching the sun set over the tombstones, a familiar glint returned to his eye. He was down, but he was far from out. Legend has it, as he tended the graves, his mind was already churning, plotting his next outrageous scheme. He had tasted wealth and power, and he was determined to get it back, no matter the cost. Curious what Tobias did next? Want to know about his even crazier plan to get rich? Drop a comment with part 2 below. And if we get enough interest, I'll uncover the next chapter of this incredible story. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more tales you won't believe are true.